slept for 11 hours and still somehow woke up tired. Exhausting, right?
And if you relate with that and this tweet, you know that sleep is not going to fix your problems. Hello, you wonderful humans. How are you doing? In this video, we will break down the mystery of why you feel so tired all the time. And what you can do to not feel so tired all the time. So hit that thumbs up button and let's go. If you're like me, you sit in front of a computer 9 or 10 hours a day, you have a sedentary or a mildly active lifestyle, and even though all of this is not typically physically demanding, you're tired by the time the day ends. Then you eat your dinner, probably while sitting in front of the TV, and eventually you get into bed late at night with your phone in hand. You end up scrolling for hours. Eventually you fall into an uncomfortable sleep, and then you wake up and do it all over again. Do you see the problem here? No, I'm not going to scold you for spending too much time on your phone. That's your mom's job. The real issue here is overstimulation of your senses, and as a result, overstimulation of your nervous system. So what's the solution? The answer is rest, which, believe it or not, is not the same thing as sleep. So this differentiation was actually given by Dr. Saundra Dalton Smith, who wrote a book called Sacred Rest in 2017. So she basically talks about 7 different types of rest that our body and our mind need in order to recover and re-energize. And sleep is just one tiny part of it. So let's look at what these are and how they can help you recover from fatigue and not feel so tired all the time. The first is physical rest, and as the term suggests, this means restoring and recovering your physical body. Now, sleep is, of course, a big part of your physical rest, getting your 8 hours a day. But sleep is not always enough. For instance, if you have muscle aches, or if you have joint pains, if you have stiffness, if you have low immunity, or you catch a cold very easily, these are signs that you're not getting enough physical rest, even if you may be sleeping 8-9 hours a day. So in these cases, you indulge in another form of physical rest, an active form of physical rest, which involves restorative movements, things like yoga, Pilates, stretching, going for slow, gentle walks out in the park. Now, I generally do practice yoga twice or thrice a week. I do Pilates once a week, but often because I'm sitting at my desk for very, very long hours, it can get very stiff and my back muscles feel sore, my neck feels sore. So I do this thing where I set a timer, and every 2 to 3 hours I'll get up, I'll just stretch my neck a little, I'll stretch my shoulders a little. And I also take an afternoon nap, like a 15 to 20 minute power nap. And that resets my mind really well and gets me prepped for the second half of the day without feeling lethargic or exhausted. Second is mental rest, which in my opinion is the most important of all of these 7 types of rest. And mental rest is required for mental fatigue. So if you have brain fog, if you have difficulty remembering things, or if you forget important things, if you require a lot of coffee just to have enough energy to get through the day, or you indulge in reverse bedtime procrastination, which is scrolling on your phone for hours because you just can't fall asleep, these are all signs of mental fatigue. Like we discussed a little bit earlier, mental fatigue is a result of overstimulation. We are constantly bombarded by information. So one thing that has really helped me reduce my mental fatigue is to reduce context switching and reduce the number of decisions that I make on a day-to-day basis. Context switching basically refers to when you have to switch between different tasks continuously. And that happens a lot with people who multitask. The way that you can do this is by switching off all of your notifications when you sit down to do something, whether it's a personal task, whether it's a work task. Reduce the number of open tabs in your browser so that you're not tempted to switch between those, because when you switch from one task that you're focusing on to another task that instantly requires some of your focus, your brain uses up a lot of energy, and then it takes a lot of energy to get back to the first task. Another thing that I have found really helpful is journaling whenever I am in this bout of overthinking or confusion. And I really like to journal before bed. So what that does is when I go to bed, all of those thoughts that were randomly there in my head, anything that was bothering me is now out on paper, and I am not actively thinking about it, which allows me to get better sleep as well. And the book by Dr. Smith also suggests that it's helpful to take short breaks throughout your workday where you get away from all of this information overload and just spend like a few minutes in silence, maybe out on your terrace, on your office's terrace, or maybe next to a tree, so that it's just more restorative. Third is emotional rest. Now, all of us at any given point in time have a lot of pent up emotions and feelings that we have not dealt with. And all of these pent up things take up a lot of mental energy, which in turn makes us feel a lot more tired. So, emotional rest is basically another term for feeling your feelings and releasing pent up emotions. This can look like a lot of different things for different people. For some people, this could mean going to the break room and breaking things. For others, it could mean a kickboxing class. For me, this often looks like journaling and sitting and talking to my partner. But if you require more help, you can also seek therapy, and that has also been found to be profoundly helpful for a lot of people. In any case, the bottom line is figuring out what are the situations and people that are causing all of that emotional trauma and stress, and then figuring out a way to deal with it. So the next is social rest, which is a means to deal with social exhaustion, which goes hand in hand with emotional exhaustion because it arises when you don't know who are the people in your life who drain you of energy and who are the people who actually energize you. This also happens for people who spend a lot of time alone or by themselves because you're constantly just with your own thought and you don't have any social interaction at all, and that can be super exhausting in itself. So the best way to actually go about getting social rest is to first identify the kind of people in your life who drain you of energy and the people who actually energize you, and then reduce your interaction with the former, and simultaneously to increase your interaction with people who are a positive influence on your life. And if you are somebody who doesn't have a lot of friends, who doesn't have a lot of social interaction at all, you want to build it from the ground up. You can start by interacting with people online and see who matches your vibe, and eventually build that up into something that could be an actual social physical interaction. The fifth is sensory rest. Again, circling back to the point of overstimulation, our senses are constantly engaged throughout the day. Now, sensory rest basically refers to giving your senses some time off. Maybe you could learn from 11 and go to a sensory deprivation tank, but I know that that's not the most feasible option. So the second best thing is to actually sit in silence, just cut off everything that's distracting and sit in silence. Naval Ravikant actually suggests doing this for an hour a day, and it can apparently transform your life. Try and do that whenever possible, like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whenever possible. Just sit in silence completely, no distractions, and that can be really, really helpful in restoring and helping your senses rest. Alternatively, you can focus on resting one sense at a time. For example, when you're commuting, you can wear noise cancelling headphones so that you can block out any of the distracting noise and maybe play white noise or brown noise or ASMR sounds to just help calm down your auditory sense. If you want to give your eyes a rest, taking time away from screens is a great option. And I know I really, really need this because even though I sleep 8 hours a day, when I wake up sometimes my eyes are genuinely tired. And I know that's because I had a lot of screen time the previous day. The sixth one is creative rest, which is to deal with creative exhaustion. And this happens a lot for people who are in creative industries, who do creative work for a living, or even for knowledge workers where they have to use a lot of their creative energy. As somebody who creates content and writes for a living, I can vouch for this. I have been on that side. I have experienced burnout. Constantly churning that creative wheel, that creative muscle is one short way to get to burnout very, very quickly. So creative rest basically helps you refuel that creative cup and also keeps the passion alive without letting you fall victim to burnout. And according to the book, one of the best ways to get creative rest is to spend more time in nature. I completely agree with this. I can actually feel it when I say it, that spending time in nature is one of the best ways to get back in your creative zone. Now, I understand that this is not always plausible for people who live in the city because, well, there is not a lot of natural stuff around. So one way around this is to actually just find opportunities to interact with nature in your day-to-day life. So for me, that looks like getting home a few plants every now and then, watering them every day, spending time either watching the sunrise or the sunset, and going for walks in the local park. Every now and then, if it's feasible and if you can afford it, I would also suggest taking a vacation to a place that is bountiful in natural elements, preferably something with a body of water, because that is just so restorative. And finally, we have spiritual rest. And this doesn't have anything to do with religion. It just means connecting to your higher purpose and doing things for somebody else above and beyond yourself. We spend most of our times thinking about ourselves, our problems, the problems of the people in our lives, and that in itself is super exhausting. And spiritual rest is like a time away from all of this. It helps you feel more grounded, more connected, get a better sense of belonging with your higher purpose. It basically increases your level of satisfaction and balance in life, making you feel calmer, more energized, and more restored. For anybody who's actively seeking spiritual rest, you can participate in volunteer activities with a local NGO, you can donate to charity, do something for your mates' kids, for example, teach them a subject. Anything that involves doing something for someone else selflessly without thinking of a benefit attached with it for you. So the moral of the story is that sleep is not the only kind of rest you need. You also need to relax your mind and indulge in meaningful activities to get your body and your mind back into a state of balance. So go ahead, try these out, but remember that doing them for a week, 10 days is not going to magically fix your life. That being said, I have been incorporating them into my routine for a few weeks and I have found them massively helpful. And if you want a more scientific approach to this and you want to know exactly what kind of rest your body needs, you can take the quiz on Dr. Smith's website. I'll also put the link in the description box for your reference. And with that, if you enjoyed this video, if you found it insightful and helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.